Welcome into Mavericks Today. Tom Downey guest hosting here for the perfect NBA offseason plan for the Dallas Mavericks because, well, the season's over. The tank job went into effect, and now we're focused on the offseason for Dallas. And we will have you guys covered all summer long, especially when you do not make the playoffs, whether on accident or on purpose. In Dallas's case, the offseason is often more fun in the NBA. So make sure you guys are subscribed for free videos on all the latest news, rumors, trades, and, fingers crossed, the NBA draft. We're breaking down our 5-step perfect off-season plan. We're not going in like chronological order, but we are going to begin with a re-signing. It's a name you probably expect. Christian Wood, I'm kidding. Kyrie Irving to get things started here. You gave up a decent amount to get Kyrie, and I actually don't think anything that went wrong in Dallas after the trade deadline was actually Kyrie's fault. I think there were several other factors that were not about Mr. Flat Earth. The Mavs are optimistic that they will be able... I'm going to throw shade all throughout this video. The Mavs deserve it. Deal with it. The Mavs are optimistic that they will be able to keep Irving this offseason, and that's important because I do think the combination on the court of Kyrie and a fully locked-in, back-to-normal Luka Doncic can make a lot of noise in the NBA, even though wings and especially big men are an area of concern. Here's what Nico Harrison had to say on Kyrie Irving and his future in Dallas. Quote, the things that he said along the way about how he feels here, how he feels appreciated, how he feels accepted and allowed to be himself, those are the things that he kind of said consistently. That's what gives me the optimism that he wants to be here. Now, unless you can concoct some type of unique sign-and trade, which I think is highly unlikely because, well, it is still Kyrie Irving, and he kind of forced his way out, had issues as well down the stretch throughout with Boston and so on. I don't think there's going to be a massive trade market at this stage for Kyrie Irving, which should raise some potential red flags as it relates to getting something back. So in order to not have wasted the trade, so to speak, re-signing Kyrie Irving and hoping that you can get things figured out before the potentially inevitable Kyrie Irving meltdown or potential meltdown comes is still valuable for Dallas, because what are your alternatives? Coop, do you have anything in mind? Anything good idea? I got nothing. So it's like, all right, let's Kyrie give it a shot here. It's a shame you couldn't see how they play together in the playoffs, but Irving was good in Dallas. And there were several games that he was the guy that was taking the big shots and was the best player on the court. I'm not being anti-Luka, by the way, to be clear. That's praise for Kyrie down the stretch this year for Dallas. So I think finding a way to keep Kyrie on this roster, and I think in the end, giving him the money is what will make him happy in the end, although happiness can sometimes change for him. So what do you guys think ends up happening with Kyrie Irving? Y for yes, N for no. Will the Mavs re-sign him? It is the pinned comments on today's video. So if an ad break happens to come here on YouTube, take advantage. Head down there, let me know. Y for yes, N for no. Next up, win the lottery. I'm kidding. There's no way the NBA, after the blatant and obvious tanking that Jason Kidd admitted to, is going to allow the Mavs to win the lottery. If the ping pong balls come up, number 2, they're gonna hit reset. They're gonna go, nope, we're gonna try that one again. It's just not gonna happen. So whether it's 10, which I hope they keep in the end, or there's a chance that gets rigged against them, to be honest. Not like Mark Cuban's made enemies in the league office by constantly berating officiating. But assuming it is 10, and we're looking at 66% chance there, plus some other better odds above it, so 80% chance they keep the pick thereabouts. Getting an impact player with that number 10 pick, or using the number 10 pick to get an impact player, I'll explain more of that in a little bit, is important. So 5 names on here. Kansas forward Grady Dick, which... jersey sales would be great. Let's just admit to it. Cam Whitmore, Villanova. Keontae George from Baylor. Anthony Black from Arkansas. Jason Wallace from Kentucky. Producer Coop, any thoughts on those guys? I know you and I both said pre-show Cam Whitmore stands out as a good fit for them.
Yeah, I like Cam Whitmore the most as a 3-and-D guy, but Anthony Black is the best pure defender, and that's something the Mavs lacked greatly. They lacked the guys who could defend 1 through 4, and I think Black would be that kind of guy as well. Keontae George, the best pure scorer in the draft, but probably not what the Mavs need right now because they have that in Jaden Hardy at the moment.
Is there any chance, and the answer is probably no, that Walker from Houston falls?
Jarris Walker, probably not. He'll probably end up in the top 7 or 8, but that would be awesome if he fell to the Mavs.
Because I wouldn't mind a big. Because you and I have had this conversation many times before. I don't like the Mavs bigs.
A big would be good, but I think if you were to get a big,
class.
It would be a scenario where you trade down and get Derek Lively out of Duke.
Okay.
I think that would be a good move as well.
Okay. You could trade that number 10 pick as well to acquire more of a win-now player and help maximize the immediate return there. So a couple different trade targets on here. Some of them I think Coop's getting a little bit aggressive with. Looking at you, Paul George, Kawhi Leonard. Chris Middleton if the Bucks were bad would be fun. Player option 2, thank you there. OG Anunoby and Lauri Markkanen stand out to me. Next Dirk. He's not, but it's funny to say that. So, of those guys, I think Markkanen stands out. And Danny Ainge loves picks. He loves acquiring draft picks. So, I think Markkanen might be your most realistic one on there. It gives you that kind of stretch shooting big man. I think would be a really good fit in Dallas because they don't really have that guy consistently at this point. The common theme here is the Mavs have to find production with this pick. You have to maximize your selection. You can't be missing on your, I'll generously say, mid to late first-round picks, where this team has done too frequently as of late. You have to get an impact player. You can keep the pick or you can trade it. Both are valid options. Figure out exactly which end up getting back there. But will the Mavs keep or trade that number 10 overall pick, assuming that ends up being the number? Keeping it, of course, is part of the perfect offseason. But otherwise, why did you even bother to tank? What was the benefit there? K for keep, T for trade. Go ahead and vote in the comment section. Next up, and I had advocated for just putting fire Jason Kidd in here because I don't think he's a good coach, but I was overruled. Bringing back Steven Silas, and we're going to throw in Dwayne Casey too because that was my compromise of he's a front office guy now. Yeah, but wouldn't it be nice to have him in Dallas? Jason Kidd, among the problems this team has faced, as we saw consistently in late game situations, and Coop was in shambles so many times, just unable to design anything to get something going in inbounds and situations there. He's not an X's and O's guy. So losing Igor, I think, was bigger than we thought it was going to be overall. And with Steven Silas now out in Houston, he was never going to work for that team tanking. He was kind of just in a rough spot there. I think that is the number one bring him back target. Bring him back to Dallas. He's an offensive guru. We know he works well with Luka. He has success there. I would love to bring back Steven Silas. And meanwhile, Casey, architect of that Mavs defense several years ago, great success. Front office role, assistant coaching role, 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. It's a less job stuff there in the end. That one might be pushing it a little bit. I would also argue that, hey, if you're hiring 2 assistant coaches to do things that Jason Kidd can't, maybe that's a Kidd coaching problem. But seems like Dallas is committed to Kidd. So, thanks, Mark. Next up, sign a true 3-and-D wing. The number one buzzword in the NBA the past decade, might be a bit long. 3-and-D. Everyone wants a 3-and-D wing. The problem is some guys are just 3, some guys are just defense. I got you, Coop. Nice try. But getting one of those guys would be significant because Dallas needs them. So some names here. I would bring back Harrison Barnes. It still works. He's not maybe not the same guy was at his absolute peak, but he does fit that mold there. Jalen McDaniels, I think, fits the mold. Kelly Oubre has been kind of up and down over his career, but certainly fits that mold. Matisse Thybulle got traded because he couldn't shoot. And then he shot, 38% from deep in Portland? Feels like a trap, I will say. Feels like a trap. Wasn't he linked to the Mavs at the trade deadline, too, a little bit, Coop? Of this feels like a trap. This feels like, he's going to shoot threes, and then the next 2 years, it's like he's shooting 25% from deep again. What are we doing? So that one scares me. Jay Crowder has been the most constant linked 3-and-D for a contender for 5 years in a row now. I don't know how much he has left in the tank, but I do know Reggie Bullock cannot be a starter. And when he's like your 7th or 8th man off the bench, sure. When he's playing big crunch time minutes and hitting 3 threes in a row and then going 0 for 9, rough estimation of the numbers there, but I don't think Coop disagrees with me. It's just not a great outcome there. So when it comes to the wings overall, name a wing the Mavs should sign. We had 5 names, but it's free agency, lots of other options out there. Drop a player name for me in the comment section. Finally, let's have the Luka conversation. I want to preface this by saying he's awesome. He is still one of the best players in the NBA. Everything you're doing is built around keeping Luka happy and successful in Dallas. But this does require more out of Luka. The expectations are here for Luka Doncic. We're not talking like, as long as he's playing as a top 10 player, we're fine. Luka should be playing as one of the best players in the NBA. And I know he was with a lot of stuff off the court, and I get that. I understand it. But Luka has to grow up mentally. He has to consistently be in shape if he wants to become the NBA's best player. Luka Doncic, tell me if I'm wrong here, Coop, can be better than Dirk. He can be the best player in the NBA. And we have certainly seen the flashes. I mean, the numbers this year look awesome, right? Better field goal percentage, more points per game, still dropping 8 dimes. He can be a triple-double machine for you. But the difference between, I'll say, a Luka Doncic currently, and I'll throw in the names of Giannis, of LeBron James even, is those guys are so, especially LeBron, he's always been great about this, so insanely locked in on basketball, on being the best player that they can possibly be every single year. And Luka isn't only. I think he's discovering that, just being one of the most gifted basketball players in the NBA isn't enough to get me where I need to go. He needs to be in shape. He needs to be locked in, and he has to play up to his level. It's not, it's a very high bar, and it's almost a little bit unfair, but when we're talking about winning NBA championships for a team that could make the playoffs this year, yeah, your number one player does deserve some of the blame, even while acknowledging he's still your number one player. I think we'll all feel better if he has a good showing at the FIBA World Championships with Slovenia and hopefully keeps him in shape, maybe lay off Luka a little bit, and then Luka will be back to the Luka who I think can be the MVP, the number one player in the association. So be honest with me, what's your concern level? It's low for me. Again, I don't want to come off as like anti-Luka. I'm a huge fan. But sound off in the comment section, 1 to 10, your concern level about Luka. And if you're a true Mavs fan and made it all the way to the end, thank you. Type in MFFL in the comment section.